So basically, when I was a kid, after getting out of those facilities, those mental hospitals, and those horrible places, and finally having my freedom back, I was very happy, and it really humbled me as a child, and it really disciplined me more, and it made me more wise in the future, and it taught me to survive on your own, and it taught me to rely on myself, because if my own mother abandoned me, my family, and no friends were there, it's me after all. So I had to learn how to survive. So I viewed things in a different way, and um, I even gave medication a shot in the other facility in Springwood, the second facility. And I didn't like it in the beginning, but then I started to get used to it. But then I refused to take it after a few weeks, and I got into trouble for that. But I knew that I had free will, and I didn't want to take it anymore. And part of the reason why is because there was a girl at this hospital, at this facility, Springwood, and her name was Christine, and she had a big crush on me. She used to write me love letters all the time, and uh, one day I had a talk with her. She was a very pretty girl. I was shocked that she liked me. Um, but after having a talk with her, I the topic of medication, the subject of medication came up, and I asked her how long she was on the medication. How long has she been taking medication? And she said, ever since she was a young kid. And I remember she said about 7 years that she was taking the medication, and then I started to realize maybe that's why she likes me, because she's so intoxicated with this medication. Because she looked like a model. But yeah, I stopped the medication. I got into trouble, and I guess I started to act normal. I proved to this facility, hey, I'm fine without medication. I'm normal, and I admitted to the psychiatrist there that the reason why I didn't dispute is because the fact that they had horses, they had animals there, and they had a pond where I would go feed the fish every day, and it was my responsibility. And they had a basketball court, and I loved to play basketball, and I could sing, and I loved to sing. So that's one reason why I didn't argue or debate with them about being there. But the time came where I started to get homesick, and I wanted to go back home. And the psychiatrist agreed that I didn't belong at that place, and finally my mother gave in, and she came and picked me back up, and I came back home finally, and I was so happy, and I got to go back to my elementary school, to Graham Road. And at this time I was in 6th grade, and again I learned to survive and to be tough, and I always had this inside me to protect people. Something happened in the 6th grade where there was these gang members, and it was the African American gang. I think it was the Young 187 boys. They were about to beat up this one Afghani kid, my friend Mustafa, and they surrounded him inside the classroom. And I quickly went over there and I told the guys, I was like, leave him alone, leave my friend Mustafa alone. And the reason why I also said that is not only because I like to protect people, but I felt that I had to protect him because Mustafa has done that for me before. So I owed him a favor. And the guys were about to jump me now. So luckily I had a Swiss Army knife on me, and I love the Swiss Army knife because it had scissors on there, and toothpick and tweezers and everything, and a saw. And so it was always interesting to me. It was a survival tool for me, and I had it in my pocket, and I pulled it out, and I pulled the blade up, and I said, if y'all get closer, I'm going to cut y'all. And I was in 6th grade in an elementary school, and this is how ghetto the school was, that you know what, we didn't feel safe. There would be gang violence inside the school, and I had to carry, and other students would carry weapons too. Some kids would bring guns to school, That's how ghetto it was. And so the guys backed up. The teacher panicked, and she pushed the button to call the office and told the office to contact the police. As soon as I heard the word police, I was like, oh no, I'm going back to those mental hospitals again. And I just ran out of the classroom. And at the time that I ran out of the classroom, I noticed that my principal was running towards the classroom. She was running through the hallway, and she seen me and she told me to stop, and I just ran from her, ran down the steps, ran outside of the building, and I started running like Forrest Gump. And I ran for a few miles nonstop. I was very athletic, mashallah. And I ended up going to another school called Pine Springs. And there was this girl there that I had a crush on, and I went to go see her, and all my other friends who were there, and they asked what was I doing there at their school, and I said, hey, I just pulled out a knife on some gangsters, and now the police are after me, and I'm over here at the school. So I thought it was cool because this is the first time that the police are after me, that the police are actually chasing me. So it felt like a movie. It was pretty interesting. And I didn't realize the consequences that would come with it afterwards. But Fairfax County Police got tips that I was at Pine Spring. The police, they surrounded the school, and they seen me, and they said, come on kid, just give up. I was like, okay. I didn't even have to run from them. Oh, I left something out. Actually, I did run. I was joking around with them. I was like playing this tag game with them. I was running through the playground, up the slide and everything. And I think they didn't even bother chasing me because they seen how fast I was. And they're like, come on, just give up. And I did. And so they didn't put any handcuffs on me. The police officers were being nice to me. They treated me like a kid. And I must say, these were good police officers. They took me back to the school, and we had a meeting, and I explained to them why I pulled out the knife, because I felt like our life was in danger. We were going to get beat up by this gang. And my mother came to the school, and first thing my mother said was, put him back in the mental hospital. Oh my gosh, I was like, why? And the police officer said, you know what, I recommend to put him in a juvenile detention center. So they ended up putting me in juvenile detention center instead of making a long trip, hours and hours, far away. They took me to the juvenile detention center, which is a jail for adolescents, for juveniles. And I actually liked it more because it seemed like there were tougher people there, and people were normal, and that's where I met my boy Dub inside there, and it was pretty cool. It was pretty interesting, and I spent a few days there, and I'm glad that I got to see it and explore it. I didn't want to stay there any longer because I missed my freedom, of course. So they released me, and sixth grade, the school year was over. So I thought I failed, but the school was kind enough to have let me pass. So I got to go to junior high school the next year, which was Luther Jackson Junior High. And my first year in Luther Jackson Junior High School, it was again another ghetto school, and it's more ghetto and gangster because now we're more advanced. We're not elementary students anymore. We're junior high school students. We're almost adults, so we're gonna go a little bit more hard and gangster and be tough, and absolutely I carried the knife with me, and again, a lot of students and a lot of the gang members carried weapons with them. One day in the class there was an altercation, and I pulled out a knife inside the class when the teacher wasn't looking, and I told all of them that they better back off. We don't want to fight, or else things will happen. And I did that sort of as a preventative maintenance because I did feel threatened by the other gang that was bothering me and my friends, and I did that just to warn them, hey, it's gonna get out of control if y'all start with this. And I thought it would prevent from something bad from happening, but it did prevent a fight, but it got me suspended. Not only suspended, it got me expelled from school. Expelled. But in a way, I didn't mind being expelled from that school because there was a teacher in that school that always used to basically sexual assault me, and do crazy stuff with me. So I was happy to leave that school because I was too embarrassed to go and to go like tell the principal or tell my mom or tell my family about it. Of course, I was a virgin at the time. I didn't know. And this female teacher, she was very beautiful, but I didn't know anything about sex and stuff at that time. I acted like I did, it was just a front so I wouldn't be made fun of for being a virgin, but, you know, I, I, I feel that it was a good thing, for me getting expelled. Um, they ended up putting me in this school called Burke Center. And Burke Center was like a alternative school, it was a special ed school. And in Burke Center, I was the only student that was allowed to go and work at a pet store because I expressed my love for animals. So the bus would come pick me up during the middle of the day and take me all the way to a shopping center where there was a pet store. And I was working at the pet store. I was getting paid by the hour and I was getting graded for it. And I was the only student in Fairfax County Public Schools to be allowed to do this. So I was definitely blessed because the principal of this new school that I went to, Burke Center, fell in love with me, loved me so much. I had like get out of jail free cards because of her. If teachers wanted to suspend me, they couldn't because the principal loved me. If they wanted to give me in-school suspension, they couldn't because the principal loved me so much. So the teachers started to hate me because I would get away with a lot of stuff there. Um, so I'll skip ahead. It was a beautiful time, spending those, that year and a half in Burke Center, 7th and 8th grade, or half of 7th grade and my full year of 8th grade. But that's something that I'll mention in my book because we probably don't have enough time to talk about that right now. So I finally am getting ready to go to high school, and they didn't send me to a normal high school because I got into a lot of trouble in the junior high school, and they did a report saying that I should stay in a alternative school, special ed. So they sent me to a school called Quanda Road, which was a ghetto school for bad kids, of course. And I met a few other gangsters there, and that's where we clicked. And that school was not about learning, it was actually more about doing bad. There was kids around smoking cigarettes, in front of the school, in the back of the school, selling drugs, guys and girls making out all the time, music being played, people skipping class all the time. It reminded me of this movie called I guess Dangerous Minds or Gangster's Paradise, a movie with Michelle Pfeiffer, and she was a teacher at a ghetto high school. That school that I went to was exactly like that movie. Eventually, I moved out of my mom's house at such a young age because I sort of had beef with her. I was upset because of my childhood, her putting me away in facilities, mental hospitals, and the facilities forcing medication on me and stuff. I felt like that altered my mind a little bit, and really I felt violated. It was bad. And so I got to move in with my uncles and my grandfather and my grandmother, and I attended Wakefield High School. And after Wakefield High School, I attended Washington Lee High School. So my sophomore year, I was in Washington Lee High School, and it was such a great feeling. I loved it because I was finally in a big school, in a normal school, for once, and it's been years since I've been in a normal school, and Washington Lee was normal. It was a big school. We had celebrities like Sandra Bullock and a few other people who attended that school. And another coincidence is that my family, such as my mother, attended that school, my aunt, all of my uncles. So it was pretty interesting, pretty cool. And something interesting happened, and I speak about how I like to protect people. There was two friends that I had. One, his name was Joseph, and he was a white American, and another was Joseph, who was an African American, black American. One day they got in a fight on the bus, and in front of the school, they started to get in a fist fight, and black Joseph started stabbing white Joseph with a knife, and all the kids and the so-called gangsters didn't do anything. Nobody broke the fight up. They wanted to see a fight. I ran over there immediately as soon as I got off my bus, and I jumped in between both of them, and I pushed Black Joseph back, and I noticed that he had that White Joseph was bleeding. There was blood on his shirt, and I was shocked. And Black Joseph just ran inside the school and he disappeared. And I was later mentioned on the news as being like a hero for saving a life of a student. And uh, White Joseph is the victim. His mother loved me so much, she brought me over to their house and cooked dinner for me because she felt that I saved her son's life. I don't feel like I saved his life. I just did the right thing. I broke up a fight. And the police wanted me to testify against the other Joseph, the suspect, but I refused in court. I felt I did the right thing by breaking up the fight, and that's it. So that was a big story on the news, and I was a part of it. Then I started hanging out with the wrong crowd, and there were people who were indulging in Mary Jane, and my first time indulging in that Mary Jane was pretty funny because everything started trailing like this, and it started echoing, and like it was weird. And we were in this park, and it was me and two other guys, two Spanish guys, and they remind me of young Cheech and Chong, type of people. And we were in the park across the street from Washington Lee High School, and there were a couple, like a boyfriend and girlfriend, walking through the park, and they were holding each other's hands. And I spotted them. I was like, oh, look at that couple. They're getting closer. They're walking towards us. Oh my gosh. And we all started laughing, cracking up, just pointing at them and laughing. And we were, sort of so-called gangsters too. We thought if the guy was to say anything, we would, jump him. So we were like, ha, look at them. While we were laughing at them, I don't know. We were just smacked. We were high and retarded, basically. And the couple got closer and closer to us, and we were laughing. Look at them. And they were getting closer and closer, and we were just laughing louder and louder until the couple, the boyfriend and girlfriend, they pulled out police badges. They were undercover cops. And we were like, oh my God. I swear to God, true story. Oh my gosh. So I'm not a professional weed smoker, and they were, and shame on me for getting into that or doing that at that time. But it was bad timing because it was my first time, and I was cracking up, and next thing you know, I'm traumatized by police badges, and they're undercover cops. Like, they really got us good. And I started hiccuping. I was like non-stop. I couldn't stop. And then one of the Spanish guys like, oh, damn pigs. And as soon as he said damn pigs, that's what they call the police. I started cracking up. It was so funny. And the cop was like, what are you laughing at? I was like, I stopped laughing. It was like bipolar. And then the Spanish guy, my friend, would say something, I would start cracking up. And the cop was like, what are you laughing at? And I'm like, oh my gosh, it was such a traumatizing moment. I was like, I'm never ever touching marijuana ever again. So they called my mom, and my mom came to the school. She picked me up. She's like, they told her, I got caught smoking marijuana, and I admitted it, and I apologized. So my mom was like, I'm gonna go give you a drug test right now. I'm like, Mom, I already admitted that I smoked. Why are you gonna waste time and money on giving me a drug test when I already admitted it? I'm sorry, I won't do it again. She's like, I'm gonna see if it's true. It is true, Mom. So anyways, that was a funny moment, and I ended up getting kicked out of that school, and they put me back in the gangster ghetto school, Quandah Road. And the remainder of my high school years was in Quandah Road. Oh yeah, they gave me a chance to go to Robinson, but I got kicked out of Robinson for skipping class every day. So, Quandah Road. So basically, I was a bad little thug kid, growing up as a teenager, because I blame it mostly on just watching gangster movies, blood in, blood out, boys in the hood, listening to gangster rap music, living a life of a fairy tale, not caring, and brainwashed thinking that if I die, I didn't get care if I died. I thought I was gonna come back to life, in a different country. So yeah, I was definitely astray. I was bedded into aberration. I was dreaming. I was living a fairy tale. And reality, started to kick in later on in the story.